Hi, I'm Bobby Chiu, professional artist, and I've been challenged today to come up with the different levels of art skills from beginner to professional artist. Now, for the sake of time, today we're concentrating on artists that do representational work. So not as much of abstract, not as much of graphic design per se, but more like things like illustration or concept art, things like that. But I did try to make it as broad as possible. Okay, so for the very first level, it's to draw a straight line. Are you able to draw a straight line? Now, I know that many pieces of software now can help you draw a straight line, but I also feel like it is a very fundamental skill to be able to draw a straight line freehand. Number two is to be able to draw a simple circle and to create an ellipse. Also, something that a lot of programs can help you do now, but if you're a traditional artist, and if you're just an artist in general, I still feel like that is such a basic skill that you want to be able to do that just freehand whenever you want. We're starting off simple, but we're gonna get more and more complex. Number three is to copy angles, shapes with lines. Now this one I would also consider quite on the beginner side of things. Are you able to look at an angle, to look at a shape and be able to copy and draw the same angle, the same size shape? Level four is copying values as well. Are you able to look at something, look at how dark or how light it is, and be able to create the same values? This I would also consider to be quite a basic skill. It's really just the beginning of understanding value. But again, these skills will start to ramp up pretty quick. Okay, I just wanted to add in a footnote here because many of these levels could be considered at higher levels. For example, even something as beginner as matching tones. You know, you can take this all the way up to hyper-realism levels. Would I consider this person that does super hyper-realistic paintings being at a master level? Yes, even though this person has not shown skills in other levels that I'll be mentioning throughout this video, I think every kind of artist would have different levels if they were to create a list as well. This is just my list. Okay, let's continue. Number five, understanding perspective. Do you understand 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective? These are still pretty basic skills for beginner artists. The more advanced skill is, do you understand beyond just the theoretical rules of perspective, and are you able to create realistic perspective? Stuff that doesn't feel forced. Are you able to create perspective to imitate different kinds of lenses so that you're showing reality through the lens of your choice? That I would consider more advanced. But just to have the basic understanding of perspective, I put that at level 5. And it's okay if you disagree with me too. These are just my levels. I would love to hear yours. So level 6, 3-dimensional linear structure. Are you able to draw things with just lines and make something that truly feels 3-dimensional? Something with sound, solid structure. Level 7, now that you're able to draw 3-dimensional structure with lines, are you able to light it? Do you understand light and shadow? That is the 7th level for me. That can be quite advanced as well, because what kind of light are you talking about? Is it a pin light? Is it a spotlight? Is it directional light? Is it ambient light? What kind of shadows are they? Where's the reflective light? There's many, many different kinds of lighting situations. Level 8, color theory. Do you understand basic color theory? Do you understand mixing what with what will get you what color? Next, level 9, realistic lighting scenarios. So now that you understand light and shadow, the basics, color theory, the basics, do you understand realistic lighting scenarios? Do you understand how to make things feel real? Level 10, I'd say that's atmosphere. Because first you really start to learn how to represent things that are kind of like in your immediate vicinity, in a very contained area where you're not dealing with atmosphere as much. You start to expand, You start to make things more grand. All of a sudden, you don't just have to deal with everything right in front of you, but you would also have to deal with the atmosphere, the air that we're seeing through to see the subject. What kind of air is that? Is it foggy? Is it clear? Is there color to it? Is the lighting scenario different all the way back in the distance than it is in the foreground? Where's the focus? Where are things being blurred out, perhaps? Why are they being blurred out? How much are they being blurred out? Level 11, composition. Composition is something that I feel there's not enough emphasis on this, because composition helps to tell your story. It helps to guide the eye through one part to another, and to make it, hopefully, the kind of trip that the artist intended. A bad composition, you look at the wrong thing at the wrong time, perhaps, and if you ever heard a story told in the wrong way, in the wrong order, it's no longer as captivating as originally intended. Same thing with composition. Level 12, edge control. Do you understand edges? Some of the most beautiful paintings that I've seen utilize things like lost edges, or edges that are clear, yet the tones are so close together that without that super straight edge, you might not even see the difference. You might not see the separation. Mastering edges really levels up your ability to create art. Having great edge control can also help you to paint very complex things without having to paint in every tiny little detail. You paint in what you need, and the viewer's mind fills in the rest. Level 13, stylizing, design. I have this at level 13 because you need to learn how things work in order to break them, in order to stylize them. Stylizing is, in a way, solving problems representing things with easier solutions. And in my opinion, the only way to do it very, very well is to understand how the original thing actually works before you can take away things, before you can simplify things, and sometimes generalize things. Number 14, knowledge of the subject matter. Now I put this in instead of putting in something like anatomy, because if you are a person that designs cars all day, you might not need to know the anatomy of a human, but you would need to know the general anatomy of a car. How many doors does it have usually? How many engines does it have? What other things does it need to become something recognizable as a car? So whatever your subject matter is, level 14 is the knowledge of that subject matter. How well do you know it? Otherwise, you could have all the knowledge in the world of lighting and composition and structure and all these things. If you don't know your subject matter, they'll never be painted or created as well as it could. Level 15, the knowledge of tools or software. Do you use traditional tools? Do you use software? Well, level 15 is knowing those tools, those softwares well. If you don't know them well enough, you'll never get to your potential. One time I had the privilege of learning watercolors from Gonzalo Carcamo. He teaches on Schoolism, but I got to learn from him live. And just seeing him being able to identify how wet is the paper. Okay, the paper is this wet, so you're able to do this at this point. At this point, you're also able to kind of erase some things out of the paint, but you gotta do it now. If you wait too long, all of a sudden you can't anymore. He understood this. He understands which kinds of paint, which kinds of brushes, which kinds of paper, which kinds of all sorts of things does what. For me, when I digital paint now, I don't really have to look at my fingers anymore. I could one hand pretty much know exactly which shortcuts, which keys am I hitting, so that I don't have to slow down. And a lot of times being familiar with your tools can help you clear the mind of all these other thoughts of like, how do I use this thing? And then you just kind of do. Many experts in whatever field they're in learn the fundamentals so well that they don't really have to consciously think about the fundamentals anymore. Instead, they're just doing. And in order to do that, you also need to know your tools or your software very, very well. Level 16, emotional impact. So now that you know all of these different things, are you able to create an emotional impact for your audience that is as strong as you want it to be and that gets the correct emotion that you want as well. This is a much more higher level of art at this point. This is also highly important because if you think about your favorite movie, your favorite show, your favorite game, whatever it might be, did it make you feel something? Of course it did. Because even if it's the most beautiful thing in the world, if it doesn't create some sort of emotion for you, it's not going to have much of an impact. Have you ever seen a beautiful movie that you gotta admit, it was beautiful, but you also didn't really care much for the movie itself? That's what I'm talking about. We have to create an emotional impact for the audience. Level 17, can you come up with a good idea? Because even if you have all the skills in the world to create whatever it is that you want, if you can't come up with a good idea, it will, again, not have the impact that you want it to have. Again, I would ask you to think about movies, for example. Have you ever seen something where it looked absolutely amazing, but the idea was bad, and therefore you would rather watch some DIY YouTube video that took about $100 to make versus a movie that took over $100 million to make? Level 18, I put down communication, because I believe at the highest levels of just about any profession, in order to get to your absolute potential, you have to be a good communicator. If you're working on a movie, you have a team that you're working with to create a big movie or a game, you need to be able to communicate your thoughts. You need to be able to communicate things visually so that everybody involved understands and can move forward in the correct way. Even if you're a painter that paints alone, just in your studio, you don't have to talk to anybody. If you're a good communicator, you're able to go to the gallery shows, you're able to talk with the people, to express your ideas, and to explain why it is that you paint what you painted the way that you painted it. Because many, many times, the person, the reason, the story behind an art piece is what gives it value. So I believe at the highest levels of art, communication is actually a very important thing. And level 19, this is probably the most important level of them all, but it's something that everybody can do, and that is constantly evolving. Now I say this because when I think about the best artists, the best actors, the best singers, artists in general, are they singing the same as when they first came out? Are they painting and drawing the same as when they first started? No, there's always this evolution. So I believe that if we are to reach our potential artistically, we have to think about constantly evolving, which means constantly learning. And the best way to evolve is to learn from the best. That being said, I highly recommend schoolism.com art classes, because there we have literally the best artists on the planet teaching you their thoughts, their philosophies, their methods, and there's a lot of flexibility in how you learn. You can learn with a premium live course where you can actually talk with the artist, meet up with them, where they customize their particular teaching towards your particular strengths and weaknesses. You can get a subscription so that you get access to all the courses on Schoolism all at once, and you can learn to your heart's content. And there's lifetime access to courses. For those of you that don't have a lot of time, that need to be able to dip in and out of courses and be able to take a lesson now, a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. If you like this video, I highly recommend checking out this other video where I talk about the environment that creates success. And I'll catch you next time.